Imagine this. You wake in the middle of the night staring at the ceiling, an inexplicable weight pressing on your chest. The world outside is silent, yet inside, your mind is a storm of contradictions. By day, you play your role flawlessly. The rational thinker, the moral agent, the person who knows right from wrong. But in this hour, in this darkness, an unsettling thought emerges. What if the self you present is a mere illusion? What if beneath it lies something far more dangerous, far more untamed? You have felt it before. The fleeting temptation to shatter decorum, to say the unspeakable, to push against the very boundaries that define you. You have glimpsed it in others too. The father who suddenly snaps at his child, the politician who preaches virtue yet secretly indulges in depravity, the lover who promises fidelity but betrays without remorse. And most disturbingly, you have seen it in history's monsters, the seemingly ordinary men and women who, in the right circumstances, became executioners, torturers, betrayers of their own humanity. Dostoyevsky knew. Long before psychology gave it a name, he saw it. This hidden darkness lurking beneath the fragile surface of civility. He painted it in Raskolnikov's fevered rationalizations, in the underground man's bitter monologues, in the self-destruction of Stavrogin, who peers into his own abyss and finds nothing staring back. He forced us to confront an unbearable question. What if our virtues are not the essence of who we are, but merely a thin veil stretched over something deeper, something primal? What if we do not merely possess darkness, but our darkness, not entirely, of course, but enough to make the thought terrifying, enough to demand we ask, if we were pushed far enough, if all constraints dissolved, what would we become? Look at the world today. Wars fought under banners of righteousness, digital mobs crucifying strangers with the click of a button, leaders who smile as they deceive, neighbors who turn on each other over ideologies they barely understand. We believe we are progressing, that civilization refines us, yet the same brutal impulses Dostoyevsky warned of still pulse beneath the surface, waiting for their moment to erupt. But here is the true horror. We do not always resist. Sometimes, we enjoy the descent, a cruel joke, a whispered secret, the thrill of transgression. There is a pleasure in rebellion, in cruelty and destruction. It is why the underground man laughs at his own suffering, why Svidrigailov embraces his own moral decay, why humanity has, for centuries, been unable to look away from tragedy, crime, and war. This is the paradox we must face. We crave morality, yet we are drawn to its opposite. We demand justice, yet we flirt with chaos. We construct our identities around virtue, yet the mirror of our souls reflects something far more ambiguous. So where does this leave us? If the darkness inside us is real, if it is not merely an aberration, but a fundamental part of our nature, what do we do with it? Do we suppress it? Deny it? Or do we look directly into it the way Dostoyevsky did and seek to understand? The answer is not yet clear, but the question is unavoidable. And to explore it further, we must first unravel the roots of this hidden force, to understand why it exists, why it exerts such power over us, and why ignoring it may be the most dangerous choice of all. The hidden problem and its psychological, philosophical roots. Imagine walking through a city street, watching the ebb and flow of human life. Strangers pass you, engaged in ordinary routines, checking their phones, carrying groceries, laughing with friends. On the surface, it is all so normal. But what if you could hear their unfiltered thoughts? What if you could see the desires they suppress, the jealousies they mask, the impulses they battle? Beneath every polite smile, there is a hidden war, a conflict between who we want to be and who we are. Dostoyevsky understood that this tension is not merely personal, it is universal. It is the struggle of every human being to reconcile the ideal self with the chaotic undercurrent of their own psyche. But why does this conflict exist? Why are we split between these two forces? Psychology offers one explanation. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the unacknowledged darker aspects of our personality that we repress to fit into society. These are the thoughts we dare not say aloud, the urges we pretend do not exist. Yet the more we suppress them, the stronger they become. Jung warned that ignoring the shadow does not destroy it. It only makes it more insidious. What we refuse to face in ourselves, we unconsciously project onto the world, demonizing others for the very qualities we fear in ourselves. Nietzsche took this even further. He argued that morality itself was often a fabrication, not an inherent truth, but a tool used by the weak to control the strong. In his view, the most dangerous lies were the ones we told ourselves about our own virtue. When we repress our instincts under the guise of righteousness, are we truly good? Or are we simply afraid of our own power? And then there is Arthur Schopenhauer, who believed that beneath all human action lies the will, a blind, irrational force that drives us, often against our own logic. Civilization may teach us to act with restraint, but the will remains untouched, an untamed beast beneath our polished exterior. It is why we struggle with self-sabotage, why we make choices we know will hurt us, why we are drawn to things that ultimately undo us. This is the hidden problem. We are not singular beings of reason and virtue. We are battlegrounds of warring forces, endlessly torn between duty and desire, between what society demands and what our nature craves. The more we deny this truth, the more we become enslaved by it. The unseen consequences. But what happens when this inner struggle is ignored for too long? When we silence our darkness instead of confronting it? The answer is far more terrifying than we dare to admit. When the shadow is denied, it does not vanish, it festers. It gathers strength in the depths of our psyche, waiting for a moment of weakness, a crisis, a trauma, a breaking point, to surge forth in full force. It is the man who represses his rage until one day he erupts in violence. It is the society that ignores its own hypocrisy until resentment turns into revolution. It is the mask of virtue that cracks, revealing the beast beneath. Dostoyevsky understood this all too well. His novels are filled with characters who, believing themselves immune to darkness, are consumed by it. Raskolnikov convinces himself that he is above morality until the weight of his own crime crushes him. The IT underground man mocks society, believing himself superior, only to find himself drowning in loneliness and spite. The lesson is clear. The more we deny our darkness, the greater its power becomes. The Rebellion. How to break free. If denying our darkness only strengthens it, then true power lies not in suppression, but in confrontation. To break free, we must do what so many fear. We must look directly into the abyss, acknowledge its presence, and wrestle with its meaning. But how? It begins with radical self-honesty. We must dismantle the illusions we have built around our own virtue and recognize the full spectrum of our nature. This means embracing discomfort, challenging our self-image, and refusing to be deceived by the masks we wear. Dostoyevsky's great characters did not escape their darkness by ignoring it. They faced it, battled it, and in some cases, found redemption through it. We must do the same. The ultimate truth, the final, most powerful realization. Imagine standing before a mirror, not the kind that reflects your face, but one that reveals everything. Every hidden impulse, every suppressed thought, every contradiction within you. You see the nobility, yes, the kindness, the love, the moments of self-sacrifice. But alongside it, you see something else. The envy you denied, the malice you justified, the secret thrill of someone else's failure, the part of you that, if given the right conditions, might do the very things you once swore you never could. For a moment you recoil. This cannot be you, and yet it is. This is the moment Dostoyevsky spent his life leading us toward. The unbearable realization that we are not what we pretend to be. That beneath every saint, there is a sinner. Beneath every rational mind, a storm of irrational desires. That the battle between light and darkness is not something happening outside of us, it is happening within. But here is the great and final truth. This darkness is not your enemy. The world tells you to run from it, to suppress it, to bury it beneath virtue and reason. But Dostoyevsky knew that repression is not redemption, it is self-deception. The only way to truly master the darkness is to integrate it, to confront it without fear, to make peace with the fact that you are both the noble and the damned. This is why his greatest characters do not simply overcome their flaws, they acknowledge them. Raskolnikov, the murderer, does not find peace by proving his own righteousness. He finds it by accepting his own guilt. Ivan Karamazov, the intellectual, does not resolve his doubts. He embraces them, understanding that doubt is part of what makes him human. To be fully human is to be divided, to struggle, to fall and rise again. And so the question is not, how do I rid myself of my darkness? The question is, how do I walk forward knowing that it is part of me? The answer is this: you do not let it control you, but neither do you deny it. You own it. You wield it with awareness. You let it teach you where your boundaries are, where your breaking points lie, where your real strength comes from. For it is only by facing the abyss that you can learn to stand on its edge without falling in. This is what Dostoyevsky knew, that our darkness is not the thing that makes us weak. It is the thing that makes us whole. And once you understand this, once you truly see it, you will never be the same again.